Hi, welcome back to The Mother You Don't Know, The Woman You Don't. Thank you for coming back again this week. We are so thankful to everybody that comes back every week and is just joining our little tribe. But this week we have a friend of ours, Angie Martin. And Angie, I don't know that we've known each other for like the length that I've known Melissa. I feel like I knew you were there, but it wasn't until the last, I don't know, what, 5, 6 years, 7 years when we
Probably.
started going to the river, that we've gotten to know each other and become friends. And think of you as a cousin,
Yes,
an honorary cousin.
right.
And then Angie's probably 90% the reason I let my hair color go, because I remember sitting at the river in like 2018 or 2019 just going, and her hair is perfect. So I think it was shortly after that in 2020 that I let my hair go.
I love it.
So I love the Silver Sisters
That's right.
connection. We're not dyeing it anymore. We're not that fake
No,
blonde.
not dyeing it, not straightening it. It's just, what is that? Let go and let God. That's what I'm
Yeah,
doing.
let go and let God. Yep. So Angie's just, we've known her for a while, and I've wanted to have her on the podcast. Finally convinced her to come on and share her story.
Gonna be
Yeah, it's not going to be weird at all. So, Angie, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're born, your parents, your siblings, just kind of where you grew up, and a little bit about your story, where you started out.
Okay. I was born in Pasadena Bayshore Hospital in Pasadena, Texas. Yes, in 1970, so a really long time ago. Um, my parents met when they were in high school in Houston. My mother and father graduated from Galena Park High School.
Yeah, so we have
And,
some more alum, because that's where my dad graduated from.
Did they go to school with Daddy?
Yep.
yeah, I think
Possibly, huh? Yeah.
probably my mother is 20 years younger than me. So I graduated from 20 years older than me. I graduated from high school.
That's a great story. How did that happen?
Yeah, miracle. I graduated in 1989, so she would have graduated in 69, maybe something like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
68 or
Yeah.
69 from Galena Park.
Yeah,
And
because
my
Diane's
father
your mom
is
is older than Missy's mom, right?
yes,
Your mom's older than
yes,
Judy. Okay, yeah.
yes. So my mother is 75. Just no, she'll be 75 in January. And then my father is a couple years older than her. But they met. My mother's best friend in high school was my father's younger sister. So my father's had a sister named Brenda, recently passed away, and they met, and through that friendship, she met my father. And then actually, my father was friends with Melissa, your best friend, Melissa's father, Charlie, and I think that may be how Judy and Charlie met. Yeah. And yeah, so when I was born in Pasadena, and my father worked for, I think, Reynolds Aluminum, had a really good job there for a while, for a long time. And then when I was 4, he decided he wanted to move to East Texas. His father had an electric and plumbing company in the middle of nowhere, East Texas. And so he just picked my mom up, and I was 4, maybe 4 or 5 years old. My brother was not even a year old, and picked her up and moved her to East Texas in the middle of nowhere. And she was a city girl. She's Houston. Never really been, that's where she was shell shocked, to say the least, when she
I was
got.
gonna say, East Texas culture shock for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, 27 acres in the middle of nowhere in a trailer house.
Yeah.
She says that you could hear the wolves howling, and they would come up to the door, and she would cry herself to sleep every night. And there's a story where he told his father, if Diane cries one more night, I'm moving back to Houston. And wouldn't you know it, she didn't cry. Oh, they stayed.
Not ship her off. He was going to leave her in the middle of where he dragged her. Leave her there, and he was going to move.
Yeah, he was going to move back. He was going to move her back, I guess, because she didn't cry. So I was like, Mom, you ruined it for all of us. But yeah, and we stayed in East Texas, and they raised my brother, and I have a brother who's 4 years younger than me, who is 1 year to the day older than Melissa, older than Missy. They share the same birthday. So my cousin Missy. your best
Yeah.
friend, again, they are 1 year to the day apart. They were both born August 7th. And so, they did not, my mother did not move away from East Texas until I graduated from high school. So I actually started kindergarten and graduated high school in the same school district, little 2A school, Groveton, Texas.
Where were you at? What city?
So where we lived was a little city called Carlisle in Trinity County, a little bitty. I mean, didn't have a school, didn't have a grocery store. It truly was a blip. I don't even know why it had a name, because there was really nothing else there. It was truly in the middle of nowhere.
So what's the nearest big town near it?
So it would have been, well, big town. I don't know. If you call a town that has a grocery store, big town, it would have been a town called Onalaska, and that is on Lake
Alaska. Yeah.
And my husband jokes because, on Alaska, and he was like, wait, Alaska? Like on Alaska? No, the town is called Onalaska.
The town. Oh, okay. Yeah.
One word. Yeah. It is spelled on Alaska, but it's just one word.
Right.
On Alaska.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's on Lake Livingston.
Yeah.
But my little town was in Groveton School District.
Groveton.
So,
okay.
So Carlisle
Now I
was between Onalaska and Trinity, Texas. But my school was Groveton. So yeah, just I had a good. My parents were together. They got divorced when I was 18 years old. So for my childhood, really, my parents were together. It wasn't a perfect childhood. As I got older, I learned some things that I was kind of sheltered from. Really growing up, but it was good. And my brother's name is Michael, and he lives in Alabama with his current wife. He has a child, a biological son from a previous marriage, and then he has a biological son with his current marriage and a biological daughter. So his son is, I believe, Hunter is, I can't remember if he's 18 or 19. That's his biological son. With his current wife, his Dakota, which is his biological son from his previous marriage. And then he has Riley. Dakota is 24, 25, 26, somewhere in that range. And then Riley is 6 or 7. And I have a daughter, Kendall, who will be 20 in February. Hi. But no, growing up, we lived off of the land. And that is not a joke. I said, I grew up lower class. I grew up in poverty, but I didn't know I was in poverty. It was this weird thing where, we didn't have a lot. We had what we needed. And my mom was able to, we always had a great Christmas. We always had great birthdays, and she always made everything special. But we lived on 27 acres, and I would say maybe 5 or 6 of those acres was just garden. It was a massively huge garden that had to be tilled with tractors, and there was corn and peas and potatoes and onions. And if it could be grown, my father grew it, which is why I joke that we will never have a garden in my house ever. I was going
to say, do you? Because I don't remember ever seeing anything in your house.
No.
It feels like a garden.
Pretty sure I cut off my green thumbs when I left East Texas. I'm leaving those. I'm gonna go ahead and leave those for you. I don't want them anymore. It was, you got home from school and you were doing something in the garden. You were picking some peas. Okay. You were getting some corn. You were digging up some potatoes, and harvesting it is just part of it. And then you have to process all of that. So my mom did a lot of canning, and it was a lot. And then my parents bought things like bread and, like some of the condiments and stuff like that. Obviously, they bought in a grocery store, but in hamburgers, so beef, they bought in a grocery store. But I grew up on a lot of deer and a lot of catfish and chicken, because at one point, we had 180 chickens. 180.
Oh my goodness.
180.
That sounds like pretty good eating to me, girl. Yummy.
It was good eating.
A lot of hard work. Huh? Yeah.
180 chickens are gross.
Yeah.
They are.
Chickens are nasty.
Yeah, but them
They
yard
are.
eggs are really good, though.
They
You gotta
are.
admit that,
And then
for sure.
I joked our neighbor, if you call him that, he was the guy who had the land across the street from where we live. He had dairy cows. And so my brother and I would kind of sneak over and milk their cows. My mom would be like, "Hey, we're out of milk." "Okay, we'll be back." His name was Junior. But like Junior won't catch us. He would milk his cows. She would actually churn. She'd make butter sometimes, and and it was great. I mean, like I said, I grew up probably a little bit below the poverty line, or maybe right at the poverty line, but I didn't know it. I honestly didn't know that at all. I mean, sometimes, it's the whole thing where the plumber's plumbing never works, the electrician's electricity never works, and my dad was both a plumber and an electrician. So we had a plumbing problem, and he would just cut the like. One time our sink got clogged. He's a plumber, and instead of like fixing it, he just cut off the pipe, and then the sink water just ran outside. You can imagine how that smells after a while. Not good.
Yeah.
Not good, you know. So,
that
I mean, it was
I
good.
wonder
I
what
mean,
that is
huh?
about. I wonder what that is about because it's common. I mean, like, it's a common thing,
It
and I
it
just said I
really
would
is.
never. Yeah.
And here's the deal, like, my dad was he everyone loved him, and people still do love him. Everyone loved him, and he was the guy. Something broke, you called Joe. You needed you needed something hauled away, you needed something whatever fixed at your house, whatever. You called Joe. I could see daylight. I would stand in my living room and I could see daylight outside the floor from the floor. I
Yeah.
could see outside.
Yeah.
It was like, and everyone would just be like, how great he is. And, he was a good guy. He's still
Yeah.
alive, but, he was a good guy. But it's just like, it's like he did for everyone else and didn't do quite as much for his family. And,
Yeah.
I never had friends over at my house. My friend, first of all, my house was like, I'm going to get the miles wrong, but it was more than 20 miles. It was like 22, 24 miles from my
Mhm.
school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a little bit of a haul to get to my school. So, my friends it wasn't easy for them to just get to my, get to my house. So, but I didn't have a lot of friends over. I spent time with my friends. I would go see them and, but I didn't have, the older I got, the more I became aware of, my friends don't quite live this way. I'm
Yeah.
probably I'm more comfortable going there and spending time with them rather than having them come to me. And I honestly think my mom was probably more comfortable with that too. I mean, my mom is very social, and and she's always liked to be a part of social gatherings and groups. And so she was always very involved. She was very involved in my school. She drove a bus for my
Yeah.
school,
Oh, okay.
and I think she maybe was like a substitute teacher sometimes. So she was very involved in things, but didn't really have a lot of people over because I think she was also aware. She also did not grow up that way. My
Yeah.
dad didn't either,
Yeah.
and it's like one of those things where you sometimes don't see your own dirt,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I just don't think he saw it
Yeah.
as a problem and he just
Yeah.
didn't prioritize that. And we were healthy. We weren't unhealthy, and we always had food to eat. We always had, we, like I said, I don't know how my mom did it at the time, but we always had, if I said, hey, mom, I really want, at the time, it was Jarrett jeans, really want these Jarrett jeans. They had like designs on the pocket. They had like patches on the pockets, and then you could buy the shirt that had the same packet on your shirt. And they weren't, I mean, now today's time, they would be super cheap, but at the time they weren't cheap. It wasn't like she was going to Walmart and buying our clothes. I mean, I wanted those. And so she did what she worked. I don't know how she did it, but she came up with the money to buy me the stuff that I wanted. Christmases. My brother had a 4-wheeler or 3-wheeler, and I got a new stereo, and so they provided. It's weird, like I said, it was just how the condition that we lived in just
Yeah.
wasn't great.
The
Wasn't great.
physical house. Yeah.
It just wasn't. It wasn't good. But I was a happy child. I didn't know. Like I said, I didn't know that we were. I knew that I didn't like how we lived, and I didn't want anyone to see it.
Yeah.
But when I got to school and when I hung out with people, they had no idea. Because my shoes were always in good condition, my clothes were in good condition. If I needed a hair product, I got a hair product that I wanted or need. So I don't know. But we weren't. We weren't going out to eat. Our big going out to eat was we went to Dairy Queen a couple times a month. It was big. First of all, we had to drive like 15 miles. So, and we got to go to Dairy Queen, and my father always ordered the chicken fried steak sandwich. So that was, hey, you got to dinner, we're going to go to Dairy Queen. My husband took me to the first restaurant. I was 18 years old. My husband, I think we've been together since, God created the earth, I think, but he took me to my very first restaurant. I did not know how to order off the menu.
So it wasn't on the
A
wall.
Mexican food restaurant. I did not know how to order off the menu. They brought me this menu, and I seriously, I was like, I don't know what to do. I didn't know any of the words. I didn't know what any of the food meant.
Yeah.
And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "I don't. What do I eat? What
Do I look
do?"
Mexican?
Right. And he said, "What do you mean you don't know?" I said, I don't know. I don't know what any of this stuff is. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what any of this stuff is. And he's like, "What do you like to eat?" And so I was like, "I don't know." He's like, "Do you eat tacos?" I'm like, "Sure." I think I don't even remember what I ordered, but he had to order food for me. So I'm like this. I don't know. Like, I was like deer in the headlights. I had no idea. And he said, "What do you normally eat when you go to a restaurant?" I'm like, "Dairy Queen." I don't know. Like,
The
hamburger.
dude.
No, hamburger. So he realized early what he was getting himself into with that. And he still decided, hey,
That's on him.
yeah, he knew it.
I gave you the red flags. You chose to ignore them.
Right. So, I mean, and it was a, I had a good childhood. I lived in a very small town, and I knew I did not want to stay in that small town. I knew from probably middle school that I was not going to stay in that town. Now, when I left, I said, "Goodbye, block me." At the time, there was no blocking me.
Yeah.
At the time, there
But do
wasn't
it.
any of that. But I actually left and really didn't stay in touch with anyone. I wanted to kind of say, that is my best. I wouldn't even listen to country music. Seriously, we moved
And
to
I'm banning Nashville.
Yeah, we moved to Austin, and I'm like, nope, not even country music. I don't know what I'm gonna listen to, but it's not gonna be country music. I love country music now, but at the
Yeah.
time, I'm like, no, that's what I listened to. I'm not listening to country music.
Yeah. And what made you, okay, well, first of all, let me say, I think it's a skill set that your parent, or maybe it's your mom, that you went through school feeling cared for, even though you had certain conditions. That's a pretty good skill set. And I think that's the skill set, a lot of moms have, where they're providing.
Yeah.
Even when there's no means to provide, they somehow whip it up.
Right.
And you got it. So yeah, that's a testament to your parents, or maybe it's a testament just your mom.
No, it is a testament to my mom. She really did. She made sure that we did not feel that we felt like we were equal to anyone else. When we left our house, regardless of what the living conditions were, when we left our house, we had, she would make sure I had a couple dollars every day. She would fix me a lunch every day in a paper sack. When I would leave, when you had to clean out your locker, in high school, I had a locker. When you had to clean out your locker, I probably had 100 paper sacks that had flattened sandwiches in my locker, because I never ate them. There would be books and stuff piled on top of them. Every now and then I'd be like, "Ooh, that's starting to stink. I better clean that out." I never ate them. So she knew I never ate them. I think it was like $1.50 at the time. She knew
Yeah.
I never ate them. And so I think she would give me like $5 at the beginning of every week. Every single day for lunch, we had like a little snack bar thing. I got a Snickers bar, a bag of pretzels, and a Dr. Pepper. And that was my lunch every single day. And it seriously cost like $1.50. It was $1. It was like 50 cents for the Snickers, 50 cents for the chips, and 50 cents for the Dr. Pepper. And so she made sure that I had like $5 or whatever I needed to get that. She fixed the lunch every day, and she knew for sure I did not eat that lunch ever, ever. She's like, here's your
Excited.
lunch.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're both faking it, but okay.
But, she really, I really think that when we left our house, she wanted us to know that we were no different. We looked, like I said, no one would be able to look at either my brother or I and say their clothes are ratty. They never, they never get their hair cut, or, they're always dirty. No, we were, we were, our hygiene was good. Our clothes were clean, and she kept up. She was able to keep up with and made us feel like you're fine. You're fine. You are loved, you are safe, you are good. And she did a great, I could tell my mom anything. Truly, there was nothing that I could not and that I did not tell my mom growing up. She knew a lot about me, a lot. And,
Yeah.
every day she would be like, hey, is there anything you want to talk to me about? And every day I'd be like, actually, there is some
Yeah.
stuff I need to talk to you about. And sometimes she would be like, ooh, probably didn't want to hear that, but it's okay. Talk about it. And because of that relationship, I decided early that if I ever had kids, that is the kind of relationship that I wanted to have with my kids. I wanted my kids, I have I'm one daughter, I have a daughter. I wanted her to feel like, hey, look, and she told me, my mother told me, she's like, if you have questions, I don't want you getting the answers from your, 14-year-old friend. Your 14-year-old friend is not going to give you good advice, and you're not going to be able to answer your questions accurately. You are not going to get pregnant from kissing somebody. Just telling you. That's not how it happens.
You can swim in the ocean on your period, kind of thing. Yeah.
Your period, yes. If you have questions about that, come ask me. And so I did. And she's like, well, you got a lot of questions, huh? I did. And she answered them honestly. Obviously, she was very age appropriate, obviously early on, she wasn't going to tell me things that would be uncomfortable for me to hear. But as I got older, she became more open and honest and, detailed, I guess you could say, about some of my questions, and made sure that, hey, look, you are going to have feelings and experience things and have questions, and, not just about intimacy, but about, alcohol and drugs and friends and studying and, driving and just everything. And, we talked about everything. And I knew that I wanted my kid to know that I want you to come to me for your answers. And yes, you are going to ask me some very uncomfortable questions, and I may not know how to answer all of them. And I may be uncomfortable having the conversation with you at the time, but I would rather, and my mom did, and my mom said early on, she's like, look, I can be your worst enemy or your best friend. I would rather be your best friend than your worst enemy. She's like, I would rather help you navigate through life rather than to have to punish you when you made or see you be punished yourself because you made a really bad decision about something. And so she's like, I can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And she's like, you get to choose. You get to choose. I'm not going to force a relationship with you on you. You get to choose what kind of relationship you want to have with me. And, I did. I chose the best friend, and it was great. I really felt like I was very well rounded. When I met my husband, I I was not, I mean, I was naive because I was only 17. I turned 18 right after we started dating. And yeah, I was just a baby. I didn't think I was a baby, but I was just a baby. But but I knew that when I had a kid, I wanted to have that kind of, I want her to be able to come to me and talk to me. Does she?
Yeah.
Does she talk to me about,
She have all the questions, like her mama.
yes, she's home from college now, and she was talking to me last night. She's like, Mom, I'm going to tell you some stuff, and you're about to know more than what you want to know. And I'm like, okay, great. Remember, I am still your mom.
Yeah.
It might be okay for us to have some secrets.
Yeah. Hold a
Might
few
be,
in. Just
might be
tuck 'em
okay to
away.
keep me in the dark about some things. I'll be okay. I promise. I'll be okay. But yeah,
So,
I mean, I did. I felt like, and I took advantage of the relationship that my mom kind of opened the door for, when I, met my husband, and he was the first guy that I really had like true feelings of love for. And she helped me kind of navigate through that and, figure out if the feelings were real or if it was more just, he's 5 years older than me. Are
yeah, I
these
was gonna
feelings
ask.
real, or
Yeah.
are you just intrigued by him? Are you like overwhelmed by his maturity and your immaturity? And, she really did help me figure all of that out, and it was great.
Did you meet Jim at school or just in town? Was he from
So
the
I
he
met,
wasn't from the same town, right?
no, no, no. He
No.
graduated from Austin. He graduated
Oh,
from
okay.
a high school in Austin. At the time, it was called Lanier High School. I think it's called
Yeah.
Navarro now. But
Yeah.
um, so he graduated from high school. He was actually um, kind of raised in El Paso, and then in middle school, he moved to Austin. But his dad was in banking, and he was a vice president of a pretty large banking chain, or I don't really know. Yeah, I don't know what bank it was, but it was a bank here in Austin. And he was vice president of that bank. He ended up not liking some of the direction that bank was going. He felt very uncomfortable with some of the decisions they were making. And he ended up becoming the president of a bank in Alaska.
Oh gosh.
Yes. Well,
Well, there's some fate.
Yeah.
yeah.
So he
Back.
he wasn't from the country either, which was a culture shock for him as well. Neither was his mother. I mean, his mother, my husband's mother, was actually raised on like a ranch, and so she was a little more country than you know than Jim was for sure, for sure, for sure. But yeah, he became president of a bank on Alaska, and my mom was a bank teller at that bank.
Oh, okay.
And
Wow.
so we met because my husband, one of the board of directors or one of the whatever for the bank, owned a small chain of grocery stores in East Texas, and he was looking for young people to come in and help kind of get familiar with his stores and end up kind of running his stores. And so Jim, my husband, decided to move on Alaska to kind of get in the grocery store field and kind of learn that. And we met because my mom decided that, I don't know, she got this weird idea in her head that the president of the bank had all the bank money. He does not. He's just an employee of the bank. But she was like, hey, you need to meet the president of the bank's son. You need to meet my boss's son. And so I also worked for that grocery store, and I'm like, who is it? And she's like, it's Jim. And I'm like, oh, he's old. Now he was 22. I was 17. I'm like, oh, he's so old. No, I'm not. No, I'm not interested. Not going to happen. And then, darn it, he was a little persistent. So I did meet him. And again, she found out that just because you're the president of the bank and the president of the bank's son does not mean you have money.
Yeah.
I mean, they did, but they don't have all the bank's money, get a salary just like anybody else. And Jim got a salary just like anybody else. But that's how we met, because we worked at the same grocery store and just kind of got interested in each other and started dating. And he had actually gone to I was still in high school. I was a senior in high school. He had been out of high school for a while. and he went to a football game, Groveton versus Corrigan Camden football game. My husband is a massive sports fan, and football is his number one sport that he is a fan of. Huge, and loves high school football. And so my high school at the time was a kind of a powerhouse in 2A football. And we had won like 3 or 4 state championships. And the year I graduated from high school, we won another state championship. So they were a really, really good football team. And so he loved watching them play. And so he went to the football game, and I saw him there, and I was there as well. And I had an ex-boyfriend at the time who in my head still loved me, In my head, he still wanted to have a relationship with me. He did not, but in my head, he did. And so I said, "Hey, Jim," because I worked with him. I knew him at the time. I was like, "Hey, Jim, there's a guy. He's my ex-boyfriend, and he keeps looking at me." In my head, he was looking at me. Probably was not, but in my head, he was. So I said, "Would you just hold my hand? Would you hold my hand so that I can make him jealous? Because so he can realize what he's missing out on, And so he said, "Yes, I will hold your hand." And 30, 40, I don't know, what is
He never let it go.
88 to now, 1988 till right now.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Oh, good.
He walked me out to my car and said, "Hey, that was really fun. That was great. Holding your hand." I don't know. I think he might have kissed me on the forehead or something. I don't remember. That was a very long time ago. And then it was like, you know what? That was kind of fun. I think I want to there was no cell phones at the time. We had a house phone. It was that house phone that, it was like in your kitchen area and had the really long cord, and the cord could stretch all the way to my bedroom.
72 feet.
It stretched like 50 feet, into my bed. I could reach just right inside my bedroom door.
Yeah.
And then, you'd take out your brother, he'd walk by and be like, "Hey, Angie, you're talking on the phone again." Yeah.
You're fine.
But so we started, hanging out more and more. And like I said, he was, my husband was 22. He didn't live at home. He lived on his own. He lived in his own, house, and he had a full-time job, and he was an adult. And my father was extremely uncomfortable with that. But my mother was like, "Ooh, cha-ching, money. Hello. Hello. You're welcome."
The good future.
Yeah. But yeah, it was, and then it just, because he was, it was very different because he was able to just come to my house whenever he wanted, and he would come pick me up, and, I didn't have a car, and, so he would drive me everywhere. And it was a very different kind of relationship because it wasn't like he was calling. He wasn't like, "Oh, hey, do you want to go do this?" And I'm like, "I'm going to talk to my parents." And it wasn't like he was like, "Well, let me go ask my mom he just was 22, 23 years old. And he was like, "I don't have to ask anybody." I was like, "Hey, let's go. You want to go to the next football game? Like, if your parents are like, why don't you ask your parents?" He's like, "I'm not asking my parents anything. What are you talking about?" Like, he's like, "I live on my own, pay my own bills." Yeah. Like, "Oh yeah, I don't. You have to ask my parents." But yeah, so that's how we met. That was a long story, but we met because we worked at the same grocery store. My mom worked for his dad. She wanted us to meet, so she kind of pushed it to begin with, and then I just kind of said, "You know what? He's cute. He's old. He has his own car." It was a fancy car at the time. It was a Toyota Corolla that had the little headlights that popped up. The little you turn the headlights on and they popped up.
Yeah.
Damn, stylish.
It was fancy.
That's rich people money right there. Yeah, right there.
And it was little bitty. It was like one of the sports car Toyota Corolla.
Yeah.
It was little big. I drove that. He's like, "You want to drive my car?" "Yes, I want to drive your car." I want to make all my friends jealous. They're lucky if their trucks start in the morning and they got mud on them and horse manure all over them, and like they're walking like he was wearing his little fancy clothes or whatever he was wearing, and they were coming to school and they're like boots covered in the morning chores that they had to do.
You use that Corolla to make your ex-boyfriend jealous too.
I did. And my ex-boyfriend, we lived in the middle of nowhere, but he was my closest neighbor. Literally, he was my closest neighbor. So I'd be like, "That's right. I got the fancy car.
With the flip-up lights.
You beat her truck to school.
That's
So
amazing.
when you and Jim, okay, so y'all are obviously dating. What made you leave Alaska? Because you said you pieced out at 18, right? And then never went back.
I think it was either 2 or 4 days after I graduated from high school, I moved in with Jim.
Okay.
My parents were going through a divorce. My dad had moved in with his mom. His dad had already passed away, but he moved in. My parents were going through a divorce. They were separated, and so he moved in with his mom because he let my mom keep the trailer because it was such a gem. So he's like, no, Diane, you keep the trailer. You it. Really, really, this is the kind of guy I am. I'm gonna let you keep the trailer. So my dad and my brother actually lived with my grandmother for a little while. But when I graduated from high school, and they divorced when I was a senior in high school. My brother was a freshman in high school. But right after I graduated, my mom, my brother had decided that he wanted to live with my dad, and he transferred schools and went to Trinity, which was like our neighboring school for the area. And he wanted to stay with my dad. And so my mom said, I'm not going to live. Her whole family is in Houston, sisters are in Houston. Her parents had both passed away, but her aunt at the time lived in Houston. And she's like, I am not going to live in Houston. I was moving in with Jim. I mean, that we were actually serious and talking about future and all of that. And she had moved to Houston. I moved in with Jim. And, I didn't have a job. I did not have a job. I graduated from high school. I'm like, I have no direction. I thought I was going to go to college. I actually did not go to college. Jim and I were getting serious, and my goal was to go to Stephen F. Austin. That's the school I'd had in mind, but I didn't want to leave Jim. And Jim did not want to move to Nacogdoches in that area, and I did not want to leave him. I just was not ready for that. We hadn't even been dating a year yet, and I just wasn't ready to kind of throw that away. And in my head, I'm always like, I can always go to school later. So I moved in with him and didn't get a job, and I kind of didn't have a car either. And he had a trailer. So I stayed in his trailer all dang day and cleaned and cooked and tried to do that thing. And I didn't know how to cook. He didn't even have a stove. He had a microwave and he had a single burner.
Yeah. So I need 180 chickens in a fire to
No,
get anything done.
I can shuck some peas. I can make you some whole peas, but yeah, I don't know what to do with the burner.
Yeah.
And so we ate a lot of Hamburger Helper and microwave vegetables from a can. That's what we ate.
There you
and
go.
but in I think it was August of '89, Jim said, I cannot do East Texas anymore. I can't do it. His parents lived right down the road from us, but he said, I think I want to go back to Austin. I think I really want to go back to Austin. And I knew I didn't really want to live in East. I mean, obviously living in a small town, Nacogdoches was a big town to me. I wanted to leave. I was dead set. My best friend and I, we were going to go to Stephen F. Austin together. And that was our plan since we were freshmen in high school. That's my plan. I'm graduating from high school and I'm putting Grofton in my rearview mirror and I'm never coming back. And then moved in with that life goes in a different direction, right? And so he said, I want to go to Austin. And I said, yes, I want to go too. His sister lived in San Marcos. We actually moved to San Marcos for a little bit and lived with her and her husband when we first moved in the area. But that's why I knew I did not want to stay in the small town. I really felt that if this is just me, I don't know, I don't have a crystal ball, I don't know what would have happened, but I really felt if I stayed in a small town, I would have married a small town boy, we would have probably had 17 children, and I would have never left. And I just had bigger ideas than what I felt I could achieve in a small town.
Yeah.
And so we moved to Austin, and we struggled at first, but that's why. I mean, he graduated from Austin. He had friends in Austin. His sister lived in San Marcos. So we just decided, we're going to do this. We have nothing. He didn't have a job. I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
But we're just going to go. He said, I don't want to be here. He also was not loving the small town life. There was nothing to do there. he's young still. He's 23 years old, and there's nothing to do in a small town. And so there was, there were no real restaurants. There's just not a lot to do. And so, and he's like, I want to show you more, and I want to experience life with you in a bigger way than what we can do in a small town. And so we did. We moved to San Marcos and eventually ended up living in Austin.
Yeah. And how long were y'all in Austin? Did y'all get married there, or
we got married in Vegas? But yeah, we lived in
we'll
in
get there
Austin.
too.
Yeah.
Classy. Now that's like really the big town.
that is the
That was
real
the big town. Did y'all elope, or did y'all have like a destination with?
No, we eloped. We had been together. I moved in with him in 1989. Started dating in 88, moved in with him in 1989, and then we got married in 1995. And at the time, we didn't have children. We had both decided we didn't really want kids. Like we weren't ready to have kids. He's 5 years older than me. There was a huge age difference, and it just wasn't in our plan. It just wasn't. And we had made the decision that we just don't want kids. I mean, we were both still young when we made the decision. We don't want kids. But in 1995, I finally said, what are we doing? Like, is this the only thing that you want? We had been together so long that having a wedding didn't make sense, and I really didn't have a relationship with my dad anymore. So he wasn't going to walk me down the aisle. And everyone already thought we were married. We shared money. We shared everything. We lived together, like we were married. So to have a wedding didn't make sense. And so, but I said, look, I want to be married to you. But if that's not what you have planned, then I think we might want different things. And I had built up enough confidence at the time that, I'm like, okay, if that's not what you have planned, then I don't think we want the same things. And so he jokingly said, because we used to go to Vegas a couple times a year, because, we didn't have kids. We had some money, we don't have any money anymore, but, we used to be okay. And so we would go to Vegas a couple times a year, and he jokingly said, okay, the next time we go to Vegas, we'll get married. And I'm like, there you go. And then it was like a couple months later, he forgot he said that, obviously. And we were planning a trip to Vegas, and I'm like, this is it. We're going to get married. I never said anything to him, and he never mentioned it. And I'm like, I am going to be so disappointed if he doesn't say anything. And then we get on a plane, and our best friends at the time were also going to Vegas with us. We did go to Vegas with them a little bit. They also went to Vegas with us, and we got on the plane, and seriously, we as soon as the wheels left the ground, he looked at me and he said, hey, so what? He said, we are flying over my favorite city. Austin's his favorite city. He said, we're flying over my favorite city in the world, and I am with my favorite person, and I want to know if you'll marry me tomorrow.
Look at Jim.
I think that was the last romantic thing. No, not really. He's like, yeah, and I'm done.
Yeah.
So we got married in Vegas the next day. I got married in like a white t-shirt, a white like button-down shirt and some jeans because I didn't pack anything. I mean, I packed a white shirt, so I'm like, maybe we might get married. I'm gonna pack a white shirt. So we packed a white shirt. We got married in the chapel. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Honeymoon in Vegas with Nicolas Cage. Their wedding chapel. That's the wedding chapel we got married in. Yeah, it burnt down. I think our marriage is still legal.
It's not a sign. It's good.
It ended up burning down. But yeah, we got married in a wedding chapel. We took a taxi cab to the place where we were going to get married in a city bus when we left. So, yep.
That is so romantic.
It is.
It's frugal.
Isn't it romantic? Isn't it romantic? Yeah. So
Do
yeah,
you
we
have
got married
pictures?
in Vegas and then called everyone from Vegas and were like, hey, we're married. They're like, oh God, it's about time.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, it's about time. But yeah, it was perfect for us. We knew we weren't going to have a big wedding, and that's not anything I was comfortable with. He wasn't comfortable with that. And so we did what was right. We did what was good for us, So yeah, I got married to I walked down the aisle, to Keeper of the Stars. And it was like you walk in, they're like, well, we have this package for you and this package for you. And if you upgrade, you can get this. And hey,
Well,
a bottle of champagne if you upgrade. We're like,
there's
oh,
some
we'll
big
upgrade.
flowers in the aisle for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was like true car salesman,
Yeah.
swoopy hair or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was perfect for us,
And
and
listen, it worked. You still
it's worked.
going?
It has worked. We're still together. Next year, October, our very next wedding anniversary, we'll be married 30 years. So it has worked.
Hey, that's a record nowadays
Yeah,
too,
it's
I know. It is.
Yeah.
Very
there-
good.
some time,
Very
and I'm-
good.
Oh gosh, we might not make
Yeah.
it to 5 years, but we're at 30 now. Yeah.
So you said that you'd lost touch with your dad. So your dad was living just in East Texas, and the relationship just kind of fizzled there.
Yeah, so my
Just lost
dad, I was a
contact.
daddy's girl growing up, a
Okay.
daddy's girl. I mean, my dad read Stephen King novels. Because he read Stephen King novels, I'm like, I want to read your books. And he was like, okay, well, let's start with Firestarter because that one's not quite so scary, And so if he did it, I wanted to do it. But when I hit puberty, I'll just say when I hit puberty, he did not know how to talk to or have a relationship with a daughter that I wasn't the daddy's girl anymore. And so he did not know how to parent that. And he pretty much told my mom, it's you now. It's you. Like, I don't know how to talk to her. He didn't want to know, like if I was interested in a boy, he didn't want to know about it. He literally told a boyfriend of mine one time, hey, his nickname was Pokey, which probably wasn't a great nickname, but anyway. And he wasn't really a boyfriend. We just went on a date, but he literally, I still call him. I mean, we're like Facebook friends now. We don't really talk about. I literally still call him Pokey. That is not my name anymore. I'm like, yes, it is. But anyway, his name was Pokey, and Pokey came to my house, picked me up. He didn't come in my house, but he came to my house and picked me up. And my dad walked outside, and he said, his name is Charles, and he said, Charles. Now, mind you, it is 22 miles-ish from my high school. And he lived in the town with my high school. It was 22 miles to get to his house. Half of it was down a dirt road. Truly, the 4 miles of the drive was down a red clay dirt road. If it rained, you were not leaving my house. So he came and picked me up, and my dad said, Charles, her curfew is 10 p.m. You will have her home at 10 p.m. He said, I don't care if an airplane falls out of the sky and crushes your car. She's going to be back in my house, inside my house by 10 p.m. It was like 6 when he picked me up. So it's like 4. It's going to take us a freaking hour to get anywhere, So we just went. So he's like, okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Picks me up. We go. Pokey takes me to his house. He's like, let's just watch a movie. I'm like, well, let's go somewhere. We hit our hangout places. There was the red road and the white road. I'm like, pick red road or white road. Nothing good happened.
Yeah.
Nothing good ever happened at the end of those roads, but that's where we hung out. There was also the Blue Hole. Either those 3 places, nothing good ever happened in those places because there was nothing. They dead ended in People Park. Nothing good happened. But I was like, hey, you have 3 options. He said, no, we're going to watch a movie. At like 7:30, 8 o'clock, he's like, hey, we have to start heading back to your house. I'm like, I don't have to be home till 10. He said, no. I need to make sure I can get you home in case something happens. I said, I think we're going to be okay. I think I was home by like 8:30. I think I was home at 8:30. I'm like, well, this isn't going to work. So, so that was kind of, he was the dad that everyone was scared of. And so I had a very hard time having a relationship with that dad. I was scared of him. He never did anything to make me scared of him. But it was things like that where, I was scared of his reaction. I never wanted to disappoint him. And so I was scared of how he would react to something, not to me, but that I would disappoint him and he would be upset or he would be angry or whatever. I mean, I obviously made mistakes. And when I made the mistakes, he never reacted the way I pictured him reacting in my head. He never reacted that way because I was still his daughter and he still loved me, so things weren't ever as bad as what I made them out to be. But it was just hard to have a relationship with him. And because I got so close with my mom, and my mom would tell him, I would tell my mom stuff, and that's her husband. She would tell him some things, and so he was informed, but I didn't have a relationship with him, and I did not know how to have a more adult, because once I hit puberty and started kind of growing up a little bit, and I didn't know how to talk to him, and I didn't know how to have a relationship with him. Once I became an adult, I couldn't have a relationship with him. We had nothing to talk about. I did not know how to talk to him as a young adult, as a teenager or as a young adult. And then as I aged more, I really didn't know how to talk to him. And we didn't, we would talk once a year. Our birthdays are one day apart. And so his is on September 14th, mine on September 15th. And so I would normally call him on his birthday. Hey, Dad, happy birthday. And he would be like, oh, yeah, well, you're happy birthday to you tomorrow. And he wouldn't call me on the next day because he'd already told me happy birthday. And then we would go a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would call him on his birthday. And, I never doubted that my father loved me. We just didn't have a relationship.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I definitely wasn't going to stay in East Texas because I wanted to live with him. My brother was very, very close to him, but I just wasn't.
Yeah. And you stayed close with Diane the whole time you were in Austin, right? You were still close the whole time you were living there?
It became hard to stay close. I mean, yes, we talked, and we weren't as close as we were obviously when we lived together. I'm in this new city. I'm trying to start this life, and I'm actually a little overwhelmed. All I knew was small town country life, and all of a sudden I'm in Austin, and
bright lights, big city, baby.
And I'm a little overwhelmed by it. I'm seriously deer in the headlights. I kind of shut down a little bit. And Jim would kind of get, hey, you got to talk to people. Hey, he would take me out into okay, I'm going to say social event, bowling or whatever, hang out with his friends. And I didn't have to have social skills in East Texas because I literally knew everyone. There were 42 people in my graduating. Knew all 42 of them, and I know all 42 parents. So I didn't have to gather social skills to talk to someone that you don't know. And so that was very hard for me. And so we would go into these social gatherings and I would shut down. I wouldn't talk to him. I would cling to him. If he was there, I was there, and I was right next to him, and he would do the talking and I would do the listening.
Yeah.
Do the listening. And, then they would ask me a question and they asked me a yes, no question. They got a yes, no answer. So are you enjoying Austin? Yes.
Lovely this time of year.
Yeah. There was no lovely. It was yes. Yeah. I just did not know how to have a conversation with a stranger. I really did not know how to do it. And so, I don't know where I'm going with this conversation, but I did talk to my mom a little bit, but I was overwhelmed by everything. And so we did kind of drift apart a little bit. I mean, I will say she tried. She called me a lot. Probably every day, every other day. And I'm like, it's a lot. But we talked to each other every day. I mean, I grew up with her. She was in my house every day. I saw her every day. She was also overwhelmed, though. She was going through a divorce, and she was, she married my father when she was 20 years old. My mother turned 20 in January, and she married my father in March, and I was born in September. If that math doesn't work, I'm like, my mom used to always joke. I'd be like, so you got married in March and I was born in September. That's not 9 months. And she's like, honey, look, the first child can come anytime. The second child can, she told me. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's brilliant.
But she was also trying to figure out how this life that she was going to have after this, 19-year, 20-year marriage of, that's what she knew. She was
Yeah.
leaving behind this life that she had built in East Texas to start this new life in Houston. Her family was there and she had a lot of support from her sisters and her aunt. But she was navigating that too, trying to find a job and, living somewhere and going through the divorce and all the stress and emotions that go with that. And I'm in this new place. And so, we drifted apart a little bit just because we were figuring out our own lives. And, yes, we stayed in touch as often as we could, but, again, there weren't cell phones. So it's not like, I can call her on my way to work or, my way home. So we would talk, when I would get home or, but it was also long distance. And Jim and I were flat broke. I made $4 an hour and he worked part-time. We were broke. Literally, we would stop at a convenience store and we would buy a little pack of the 6 donuts and he would have 3 and I would have 3. That was our breakfast. Like,
Broke,
you always
no rope.
say
Yeah.
God provides like what you need.
Uh-huh.
He did. And there was a little incident that happened in East Texas with a girl that he was dating, and the ex-boyfriend kind of lost his mind and damaged some of Jim's property, and like damaged it bad, like poured sugar in his gas tank and like just really caused a lot of damage. And I mean, Jim's like, I don't even like the girl. I mean, we've been on like 2 dates. I don't even like the girl that much. But so when we moved, there apparently, like I said, God provided. We don't even know what happened, but there was all of a sudden we started getting like a couple $100 a month from some settlement. That was our grocery money. Like, I do not know how we would have had groceries in 1989, 1990, if we did not get that $150, $200 a month check, because that truly is what we use to buy our groceries. At the time, you could buy lunch worth of groceries for $100,
Yeah.
But, that was how we bought our groceries, but so we were flat broke. So to make a long distance phone call would have been a luxury.
Yeah.
So my mom did try to reach out to us. She was also broke too, but she tried. She did try to like reach out, but it was just hard to, when you live, she's in Houston, I'm in Austin, and timing and, cost you money to talk to somebody, so we weren't as close. So we did kind of start drifting apart, and just because of distance and time and money. But I knew I could talk to her and I knew I could tell her anything. And, she was still my mom, and she was still, she would do anything for my brother or I, so yeah.
Yeah. And I guess I forget about not having cell phones because I'm not that much younger than you, but it did happen, I guess.
Yeah.
It happened about the time I had Mariah. So I've always been able to be connected. By the time I moved out, you could stay connected. So yeah, I guess I hadn't thought about what you do normally when you live in different cities. You're not connected, and you can't afford long
you're not, and so it was,
you're right.
I mean, we talked truly probably talked once a week, where we were used to talking every day or every day-ish. Even when I moved in with Jim, I lived with him for about 2.5 months in East Texas, and we talked more frequently then. Although she was in Houston, we did talk more frequently. I mean, I was at home by myself, and so we would talk more frequently then. But then when I moved to Austin and we were trying to like figure out how we were going to live, and we didn't have money, and so we did talk once a week. Sometimes it wasn't like that often, but it wasn't as often as we were talking. So probably the relationship, it didn't damage the relationship, but it just wasn't, as close as we were, just because, we just didn't talk.
Yeah, it was just different. Yeah. And you had said that you and Jim did not want kids. Well, obviously you got a Kindle.
Got a Kindle.
You have a Kindle.
We got one perfect child. Done.
So
Did you
change your mind about having kids, or
we did. We did.
Show up?
So no, she was not a surprise. So we, our friends started having kids, and so his sister had couple of kids and friends were having kids. And I think I started to kind of say, this might be something I might be flipping a little bit. I might be changing my mind a little bit. I think it took Jim a little bit longer to kind of come around, but we hadn't actually made any decisions. We'd kind of, that whole thing, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's truly where we were for a little bit. And then I got pregnant. And I got pregnant in, I don't actually know when it was. I got pregnant probably in August, September-ish of 2003. And we had a miscarriage in October. And it rushed me and Jim too. Because then once I got pregnant, I'm like, this is what I want. Found out I was pregnant. It was a little bit of a shock. Like, oh, okay, well, I guess if it happens, it happens. I guess it happens.
Yeah.
Yay, And then we were all in. It was like, yes, this is what we want. We are going to be parents, and we were getting excited about it. And then it was called a blighted ovum. It never actually developed into anything. The blighted ovum, means that nothing ever actually develops. It's just an empty sac. But I had to have a D&C at the time to clean everything out. Because I wasn't passing anything, and so I had a D&C to clean everything out. But then I was really upset. First of all, you're not comfortable, and I was really kind of uncomfortable, kind of healing from that. But then I'm like, this is what I want. I now know I want to have a kid. And so once we got the all clear, I think it was like in January, the doctor was like, okay, if you want, you guys can start trying again. Man, it was all on. It was all on. Jim's like, I might have to take some medication. I'm just might need some help here. But we decided that is when it was, yes, this is what we want. And then in May, we got pregnant. And, then we'd had the miscarriage before. And so we waited. I mean, we waited until we waited until, so I was considered 8 weeks pregnant when I had the miscarriage. And so I think we waited for 12 before we told anyone, and we told his parents and, obviously my mom. But the whole pregnancy, I was a basket case. I was a nervous wreck. Once I felt her move, if I didn't feel her move for like a couple hours, seriously, I was drinking orange juice and eating candy. And then I would lay down. Okay, I feel
Is that supposed to make them move? Is that
the sugar, the sugar, it increases your blood sugar. So it increases the baby's blood sugar, and it makes them get a little bit hyper.
I didn't know that.
I would do
caffeine. Know that.
I would drink some caffeine, and because I would call my doctor was like, girl, you gotta stop calling me. I'd call and be like, look, I haven't felt the baby move in like 3 hours. She's like, they sleep, right? They sleep. So I'm like, look, I'm awake. I've like been jumping around, and she's not moving. And she's like, okay. She's like, look. Just
Kendall's all hopped up on caffeine.
eat a piece of candy, eat some sugar, and then lay down and just give it an hour. And I'll be like, okay, she's moving again. I swear, I think that's why I gained like 80 pounds. Because I'm like, I'm moving again. Got to eat that candy, drink that soda, whatever.
I'm a diabetic now, but she's moving.
But but we decide, that's when I knew for sure that yes, I want to be a parent. I want to have a kid. And then we had her, and Jim I had her at 34 and Jim was 39. And so, we decided then, that one would be enough. He would be if we were able to get pregnant again, by the time we did, he's going to be in his 40s when I get pregnant. And then he's, probably 42, 43 before we actually have it. He's like, look, I do not want to have a walker to walk my kid down the aisle when she gets married. That's not what I want. I don't want to have a walker when my kid's graduating from high school. Like, I don't want to be that parent, And so we were like, okay, well, we'll just have our one child, and I'll obsess over her, and I have, thing, because it didn't get better. Like I was obsessed when I was pregnant. It has not changed. Literally. She jokes because until she moved out of the house, she's not technically moved out because she's back now. that child, I would go in the middle of the night and make sure she was still breathing. She would wake up. Sometimes I'm like standing over her, like my hand under her nose, my hand on like her back to see, and she's waking up. She's like, "Mom," I'm like, "Okay, you're good."
So not when she was a baby, but like she's in high school. She's like, Mom.
Yeah, like I didn't want her to die of SIDS at 18. You know.
Like, did she ever look at you and go, Mom, Sid stops at like a year. Like, once you get to a year,
yes.
you don't have to worry about that anymore.
Even now,
Yeah.
even now, like this morning, I was leaving to go to work, and I go in her room and I kiss her forehead, but I'm like feeling like, okay, she's good. She's like, seriously, Mom, seriously. She's like, we spend months apart. You're not checking my pulse. I'm like, yeah, but I'm following you on Life 360.
If your dot ain't moving.
Yes, that dot ain't moving. I'm calling you. You're in the middle of nowhere. I'm finding out why.
That's amazing.
Yeah, did you say like you were looking at her dot or something and she was like in the middle of a field or something?
Yes.
And
Yes.
figure out
Why?
Why?
I did. I showed Jim. I'm like, look, she is going to where she was going somewhere. I can't remember where she was. No, I think she was going to church. Seriously, I think she was going to church. And it was like after church, and they were going to meet some friends. But there were on Life 360. I had zoomed in. There was nothing there. It was in the middle of the. I'm like, I don't know where she is. Her dot hadn't moved in a while. I had like texted her, hey, how was church? Nothing. I'm like, where'd you go eat lunch? Nothing. So I told Jim, I said, hey, her dot's not moving. She's in the middle of nowhere and she's not responding to me. And he said, well, I will text her. Maybe so he said, I'll call her. And he's like, I'll just be like, hey, just checking in on you. So he calls her. She doesn't answer. So I'm like, hey, it was in New Braunfels, somewhere in New Braunfels. I'm like, back up, buddy. We're driving to New Braunfels. We have to go find her. I'm gonna find her dot. I have her dot. I'm gonna go find her. And it was like 2 minutes later. I think a Texas game was. I think we had people over at our house to watch a Texas game, football game.
Yeah,
and you
And
leave
I'm
them
like,
there.
we're leaving.
yeah, we're gonna.
You
don't
walk
have
up
to-
and you go.
Look, I'm putting my shoes. I'm putting a bra on and my shoes on right now, and we're heading out the door, buddy. Anyway, so he ended up. She calls him back. She's like, hey, sorry, I missed your call. She's like, oh, and then he's like, I'm just checking on you, making sure you're okay. And I'm seriously in the bathroom, like brushing my teeth, like putting my hair up in a messy bun.
Yeah,
And he's like,
your
hey,
CSI jacket on.
yeah, exactly. He's like, hey, I just talked to her. She's fine. She's alive. I'm like, all right. And then I ended up texting her. I'm like, you can't do that to me. I was about halfway to freaking out the door. I was getting in my car to drive to find you. She's like, Mom.
Yeah,
Poor
that's the
thing.
plight
Poor
of the
thing.
only
I don't
children,
even
huh?
know when it's going to change.
Yeah,
It's probably going to be worse when she gives me grandchildren, and then it's going to be real bad.
oh yeah, for
Yeah,
sure,
there you go.
for sure. Because I track Cody and Kaylin. We all are on the Life 360 thing, and it's constantly just checking, just see where everybody's at. Make sure everybody's
Just
fine.
making sure everything's okay. And poor thing, 'cause I'll just randomly text her sometimes. If I haven't heard from her in a while,
Yeah.
I'll be like, and randomly I'll be like, hey, how was your English class?
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah.
well, it was good. She has no idea. She's probably listening
Yeah.
now, but
Yeah.
she has no idea that I'm really just making sure that she's
Yeah.
going to text me back and everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. I will say, I remember one time there was on UT's campus, Mariah went to UT, and they had found a girl had been murdered on the campus, and they had found her body and she wasn't identified. And one of my friends texted me and said, hey, have you talked to Mariah? And it's like one of those things where you go, well, not today. Why? And they're like, oh, well, this, and immediately, I mean, there's, I don't know, 100,000 kids on that campus, and immediately started texting, like just one after the other. I mean, panic mode.
Yeah.
Went into full blown panic mode. And she was literally at some point was like, I am in class.
Study hard. Pay attention.
Get choices, yeah.
Yeah.
Why are you texting me if you're in class? Pay attention.
Yeah.
Stay away from unalivers. Yes.
That's
Just that thing,
That's
but it's that instant panic where you're just like, it could be.
It's irrational. It truly is irrational.
Yeah.
It truly is irrational.
But that's too bad. No.
I think it's justified. I think you have a right. You carried that baby. You have a right to know where she is.
know, they're at.
Well, and
till I'm dead.
right, right. And it's funny too because growing up when she was a child, she was a mama's girl, and she was all about me, and then she goes through that like awkward, like, Mom, you don't really know anything, and I'm not going to tell you anything because you won't understand anyway, and I have my secrets, and so when she was a teenager, like I would say 14, 15, 16 years old, she kind of didn't talk to me a lot. My feelings were hurt. Didn't want her to know, but I'm like, just talking to a friend of mine who had a child at the same age, daughter at the same age. And I'm like, she's not really talking to me, and I can't get her to open up. And I really wanted this different relationship with her. I wanted to have the same kind of relationship I had with my mom. And I always knew that I could talk to her. And my mom was always super open to everything. And I feel like I'm doing something wrong. I feel like maybe she doesn't feel like she can come talk to me because I'll, trying to incorporate some of the same things my mom said with, you can tell me anything, there's nothing you can tell me that is going to make me, love you less or think less of you or question who you are. Like, there's nothing you can't tell me. You can tell me anything, and it is not going to change how I feel about you, how I think about you. I'm here to help you kind of navigate through this awkward stuff that you're feeling and thinking and, whatever. And she's just going, I have nothing. There's nothing I need to tell you. I would tell you, but I don't have anything to tell you. And I'm like, okay. Then I'm like, I think I'm
Could you
failing.
make some stuff up, please?
I think I'm failing. I'm not having that same relationship. And man, that girl moved to college, and it is on. And
Yeah.
I love it. She calls me every day, and I love it. And like I said, shares a lot.
Yeah.
Which I love as well. I really, really, really love it. I am still her mom, and I have to remind her. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, she's like, "You're my best friend too," and I said I am, and I love it. I love it.
But
I am still your mom.
there's
Like,
some details.
in my head, sometimes you are still 10 years old.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
in my head,
Always.
no, you're almost 20. But in my head, sometimes I think you're going to still play with your American Girl doll. I'm just thinking, there are some times that it's still in your closet because you might want to play with it.
So, yeah. Angie, when did you and Judy develop such a close relationship? Because that's something else that I think you're really. Oh, go ahead, Lydia.
So, because I do want to interject here, because I've known you for a couple years now, Angie, thanks to your relationship with my sister and Judy and Missy. And it wasn't until the start of this podcast an hour and a half ago that I found out that you are not actually related.
True.
Who's not related?
How are you related? You're not related to, like, physically to Judy, are you?
Yes.
She's
Diane,
my
her
mother's
mother.
sister.
Okay, because she made a comment at the beginning about, I thought you said that Judy and Diane were best friends, not sisters.
No, my father has a sister named Brenda.
So I'm sitting here the whole time going,
yeah,
I'm such an idiot, because I tell everybody,
Yeah, no.
Angie's Judy's niece. And I told Mom that, and I was like, I'm so stupid.
Hey, you did not lie. You were telling the truth.
Okay,
You were telling
I'm
the truth.
sorry. I
I
didn't
have
mean
another.
to interrupt the flow. I was
On my
going,
dad's side, I have an aunt,
okay.
and that aunt and my mom were best friends.
So
in
I was
high
going to
school.
ask that question, who would you like to be then? Because your family, because everyone says your family, but are you like family that's picked and like we inherited you like a stray?
I actually family. They will never get rid of me.
Okay. Then I apologize for interrupting the flow of this story, because that was my question. Is like, I honestly thought you were family this whole time. And you are, so
She
never
is.
mind. Never mind. Don't listen to me. Never mind.
She looks like a. What do you think?
Yeah, no.
They all-
Thinking
they
of
all
Judy's
look
like
alike.
Christmas parties
There
and all
is-
these big events, and Angie's just always there. I'm like, I love that they just adopted this stray and they treat her like family. They act like she's family, but she's really not. But it turns out you are. So
I probably am a
Okay.
stray too, but whatever.
This is
Well,
our.
Well, they're kind of like our family and Misty.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
that's
Yeah,
exactly what I was thinking. But I
yeah,
just got
Oh,
caught
she's not-
confused. Okay.
she's not really family.
But she is.
Yeah.
You know, she is.
She
Or she's at all the family things.
She walks
so-
in the door like she's family.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's like
So-
your kids grow up thinking that this person in the room is their aunt. It's just some idiot your mom made friends with.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Okay, sorry.
uh,
So Judy.
uh, oh yeah, I was going to say, I know that you and Judy, who's been on the podcast, are really close. And how did that relationship kind of develop? Because I know
Yeah,
y'all are regulars.
we are.
Yeah,
We are.
but
We are
like,
regulars. Yeah.
Judy will, oh, I just got off the phone with Angie and I'm just driving home. You go, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So growing up, I was closer. Now she's younger, right? So
Yeah.
she's
The
maybe
young hip sister.
is she 4 years younger than my mom? She's pretty young. I mean,
Yeah.
I think she's probably 3 or 4 years younger than my mom. Judy's the youngest, and then my mom, and then there was their sister Ruby, or they call Tinker, and then Thelma, or T. They call her T. And so, growing up, I would go see Aunt Judy and spend time with her. In Houston, and she tells a story where first of all, they were in Houston and they had a brick house, so they were millionaires. You know, in my mind, they lived in a neighborhood. They had two cars, and both of them ran. Both of them worked. You know, they had
And Mom, this is when she was on Fawn Court. So
Yeah,
it's right
I was
behind
sitting
where we
there thinking,
live.
that's on Fawn,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Fawn
In North
Court.
Shore.
Yeah.
They had two bathrooms that had two bathtubs. Two full baths. So they were rich. They were rich. So she tells this story when I was really little, and I was, this is when you didn't have seatbelts in the back of your car. I was able to talk, but I was probably like 4 or 5 years old, maybe a little older than that. And I was standing up. The back had like a hump, like the little hump that you get on the floorboard.
Yeah.
So I was standing there, and I had a Coke in my hand, like a Coca-Cola in my hand. And I said, Aunt Judy, she said, feel rich. So I told her, I to tell that story. And then she's like, it broke my heart. She said, you have a Coca-Cola in your hand and you feel rich. She said, that baby. She said, it broke my heart. So I've always been like, and on my mom's side of the family, I've always been close to that side of the family. Growing up, all of the sisters all had a son and a daughter. So the boys were always close and the girls were always close, so we grew up pretty close. When my grandmother passed away, I think I was 4. I think she passed away in 1984. It kind of got harder, the grandmother, the matriarch is the one who kind of holds the family together, and you gather around that person, for your holiday, for your Christmas gatherings, for Thanksgiving, all of that stuff. And then when that person passes on, it becomes hard to we tried, it just kind of wasn't quite the same. But, so I've always had like a little bit of a relationship, and Judy is just someone who wants the family to be together. She's always wanted that. And really works hard to make sure that happens. But a few years ago, my mom made some choices with her life that I very, very, very much did not agree with. And it very strongly affected our relationship. It ended our relationship because I just could not get on board with the decision she was making and asking her to stop. And she just wasn't, she had prioritized something else over our relationship and her relationship with Kendall and her relationship with a lot of people. And so my aunt, Judy, stepped in at that point and said, she saw that I was struggling a little bit with that. And so she stepped up and she's like, and I think in her mind, and from my brother and I both, she stepped up for both of us, and she would, purposely reach out and, are you okay? And what do you need? And, just really, really, really made an effort to make sure Michael and I still had a mother figure. I mean, we were older, right? I mean, when all of this was going down, I was in my 40s. It's not like I was a baby, I mean, I was, Kendall was, already here, and, was in grade school. I think she was kindergarten, first grade. So it's not like I was still, young and, but it very much altered that relationship. And my mother has definitely, worked hard and kind of made some decisions in the right direction. I just think I'm going to call the mistakes that she made, they've altered her. They've
Mhm.
permanently altered her. And I have a hard time connecting with this new person that she is. And it is a new person. I mean, I know she's trying, but when all that happened, so that was probably 11 to maybe 10 to 12 years ago when all of that was happening, my Aunt Judy stepped up. And at first it was, hey, I just want you to know I love you. I'm here for you. You know, we started going to the river trip, that whole river trip thing started happening. And, at the river trip, she would make sure that, you know, I just felt like she was my mother figure. Through those trips, we started kind of connecting as adults. And then she just really kind of continued to connect, and I became really close to her. And I mean, she's my mom now. I mean, I truly do think of her as my mom. And, Missy and I, because we're 5 years difference. So growing up, she was always the baby, she's the baby. I don't want to hang out with the baby,
Yeah.
she's so young. And she jokes about, how we always left her out. And, I'm
Yeah.
sure she kind of went to therapy for that or something, because, she was so neglected and, forgotten about, poor thing, poor Missy, But it was kind of true. I have a cousin who's a couple years older than me. Her name's Tanya. And Tanya and I were
Yeah.
really close in the same age. And she lived with us. Her mom had married a guy, and they would travel. They would go out of the country travel. And so Tanya would live with us, and, had bunk beds. And, so we shared bunk beds. I was on the top bunk. She was on the bottom bunk. And, so we grew up really, really close. And so we did exclude Missy a little bit when we were growing up,
Just explaining
And
so much.
And so I've actually gotten to know Missy as an adult as well over the last 10 to 12 years. And, she's more than a cousin to me too. Like, my aunt is more than an aunt to me. Kendall calls my Aunt Judy, calls her grands. That's what her grandkids call her. They call her grands. She calls her grands. She calls Missy Aunt Sister. I don't know.
That's what I was waiting for. I was like, that explains Aunt Sister.
Yeah, because you know how she calls everyone sister. Hey,
Yeah.
sister, how are you? Hey,
Yeah.
sister. Everyone's sister.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Yeah.
sister.
Yeah.
And so Kendall calls her Aunt Sister because everybody's like,
Yeah.
hey, sister, how you doing? So she
Yeah.
calls her Aunt Sister. And she is more like a sister to me
Yeah.
than a cousin,
Yeah.
And Kendall didn't really feel comfortable calling her Aunt Missy or Aunt Miss.
Yeah.
I call her Miss, but not Aunt Miss.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm
Yeah.
just going to call her Aunt Sister. I'm like, call her Aunt Sister.
Yeah.
She will truly answer to pretty
Yeah.
much anything, But yeah, that's
Plus,
how we became close.
It's much more fun in therapy to try to explain Aunt Sister than
Yeah.
anything else.
Yes. But
You're welcome,
that's
Kendall.
how my aunt and I got close, and
Yeah.
she really has filled a role for me that, and she, like I said, she loves her family. Man, my Aunt Judy loves her family. She loves them so much, and she wants the family to stay close in a family unit. And she really, really, really tries hard to even keep my mom involved in things, and, and she called me every time I talk to her, every time I talk to my aunt. If you talk to your mom, you talk to your mom, you called your mom, you talk to your mom. So I'm like, hey, stop hounding me. But, yeah, like I am talking to her now, but yeah, that closeness has evolved, and it has over the past few years, and we are truly now very, very, very close. Like, I probably talk to her. I don't talk to her every day like Melissa, but I probably talk to her, a couple times a week. Every now and then it's maybe once a week, but we're talking to each other. She's calling me, I'm calling her. And so it started when she really felt that I needed to have a mother figure.
Yeah.
And she wanted me to know that I have one, like I said, I was an adult, but I think, she's like, I want you to know that, if you need to talk to somebody, I am here. And I did. And I was able to talk to her. And, Kendall loved my mom when she was young. Idolized my mom. And then because of some of the things that my mom did, I was not comfortable. I did not feel safe. I did not feel Kendall was safe being around her. So I wouldn't let her around her. And I did not even want my mom talking to her. Like, and it was a little bit of I want to give my mom an ultimatum. I want to say, until you make some changes, Kendall's not going to be in your life, period. And it took her a while to kind of come around. But at the time when Kendall really needed to develop a relationship, she wasn't there, and it took her like 10 years to 8 to 10 years to come around and really decide, I want my family. But by then things had evolved, and and unfortunately, Kendall does not have a relationship with her, and she doesn't know her. And Kendall does not know my mom. And she, it's at a point now where if Kendall wanted to have a and Kendall's old enough now, and I have told her, I'm not going to force you to have a relationship with anyone. If you want to have a relationship with my mom, I'll help kind of make that happen. And she's just like, I don't know her. I don't know her. And she's like, I don't miss what I don't have.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't miss that. And she's like, I've got grands, and I know it hurts my mom. I absolutely know that hurts my mom.
Yeah.
But she's just not the same person. And so my aunt has stepped up and stepped into this role. Kendall feels accepted and loved, and she truly does think of her as her grandmother, And even if Kendall and my mom did develop a relationship, or I and my mom developed a stronger relationship, and we're willing, it's different. It's very, very
slow going,
it's
isn't it?
very hard. It is very, very hard.
Well, things don't break overnight.
Right.
They don't break overnight.
They don't
Right.
heal
And
overnight.
they definitely don't heal overnight.
Right. Right. And I will say, I need my mom to make a lot of effort. It seems unfair. What I'm saying probably isn't fair, and I know that, but I need her to make the effort. I need her to, I don't know, I need her to prioritize my relationship with her. Not prioritize it over everything, but make it important enough to her that she really puts some effort in. And even now, my mom says words like, I miss you and I want us to talk more, but then it never happens.
Yeah. And I did hear something the other day, because I'm, struggling with some things too, but I did hear somebody say something about it. It's absolutely the parents' responsibility, even if they have adult children, to heal and to make the effort and to put in it should just fall on the adult.
I agree.
I mean,
I agree.
the mother or parent, I guess they were talking about parents, but it should always fall. It's just the responsibility of the parent. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's just, even if your child is the one that's wrong, if you're trying to heal that relationship, it's just the parent's responsibility to do that.
To at least lead the way, I would think, to lay the foundation to
make the effort.
there,
Yeah.
And I feel like my mom says things, like she says the right things, and my mom has always and I didn't realize some of this stuff until I got older, and probably until recently, maybe 4 to 5 years ago even, that my mom has this need, like it is an overwhelming need for her to feel needed. My mom needs to be with people who make her feel like she's needed. Whether that was in Weight Watchers when she was, going through the many different Weight Watchers things, or it was getting involved in my school, or, getting involved, like she just needed to be around people who valued her, right? And who said, hey, you're important, and we want to hear what you have to say, and we want you to be a part of this. I mean, she's super involved in her, and that's why she made some of the terrible decisions that she made, because those people made her feel needed and important, and they weren't the right people, and she wasn't making that she wasn't feeling needed and wanted for the right way, for the right reasons, and she knows that now. She really knows that now. And she has worked very, very hard. And I truly do believe that she's not making those same mistakes anymore. But I don't know. Yes, I truly believe what you just said, that it is the parent's responsibility. And I've learned from that, from going through that with my mom, that, Kendall and I probably will have, Kendall is eventually going to get married and have her own family and get overwhelmed with her own life,
Yeah. And take you off Life
not,
360.
and not have time. Right. Well, we'll have to see about that.
Good luck.
Look, there is a line. But I'm not going to be a priority for her anymore.
Yeah.
There are going to be people in her lives who are going to be more important than me. But I've learned from my mom that it is my responsibility to keep letting her know that when you are ready, I am here. And I'm just going to, I'm going to keep reminding you that I am still here, that you are important to me, and I'm still going to be here for you. She says, oh, that'll never happen. But it will, because she is going to get overwhelmed with her own life, raising her own kids and going to their sport. We all know, you look up and it's 10 years later and you're like, where did 10 years go? I don't understand,
And why am I at a soccer game at 6
Yeah, that's
a.m.
true.
at the YMCA?
Right, exactly. Why have I been at the soccer field for 12 hours today?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, so I know that's going to happen, but I have learned from going through this with my own mom that, I hope I don't make those same mistakes. I mean, nobody's perfect. We are all going to make mistakes, but saying, I am going to take ownership of my part in this and make sure that that you are important to me, Kendall, and I am always going to be here for you. Whenever you're ready for us to have the relationship that you want, I am here. And I'm just going to keep reminding her. But
I think that's a great lesson.
But Judy, she just, came in and said, I love you and you're important to me. And, and she is my mom.
Yeah.
Judy's great.
And I know it. And I know if my mom hears this, it's going to crush her. But that is the truth. I mean, I think of her, as my mom. I think of Missy as my sister. I mean, as again, Missy's matured and she's not a baby anymore. She's not the baby anymore. And
I was like, mature. I was like, mature?
Well, I mean, well,
You're going to be mad tomorrow, boy.
She is. She's going to be
Talk
like,
about the definition of mature. Just kidding, Miss. We love you.
Right. But, as we've kind of grown up and through the river trips too, and kind of connecting with her in that way. And we've gotten, obviously closer now than what we've ever been. I mean, she's always been, I've always loved her and she's always obviously been, in my life, but I wasn't really close to her. We grew up very, very different,
I mean, she was wealthy.
She's quoting her mixed lot in a text today, and I had no idea what she was saying. Like, she said some things, you knew what she was saying. I did not know what she was saying. She said it, and then Judy's like, what? And I'm like, I didn't even respond. I'm like, I don't know. And Dorcas is like, I got it. And I'm like, well, of course you did.
Yeah,
but we grew up in very different times and in very different environments,
I mean, she knew how to order from a menu at a restaurant, Angie.
She knew how to order from a menu. She did.
I bet the Cheesecake Factory sent you into like a coma.
You don't even know.
That big ass menu.
It's still there. If he had taken me to someplace like it was a 1-page menu that I had to order from when I was 18 years old. It seriously was not big. If you opened it, it had like appetizers, sides, entrees. Like, it was not.
It was not trying to judge you. Menus can be overwhelming for some people. That's okay.
When you've never seen one, especially. Like, that's sad, right? That's sad.
That's amazing.
No, it's just amazing.
Brilliant.
I never, in my childhood growing up, I never went on a vacation. Our vacations, I went to Houston to see my aunt. I went to my grandmother's house. I went to another aunt's house. Like, as a family, we never took a family vacation. when Jim would tell me about family vacations, I'm like, wait, your family like went places together? Like on purpose? Like to a different city? He's like, is it they? He's like, we went to a different state. I'm like, you went to a different state? I had never been out of Texas. Houston was the furthest I had been.
From
I went
Alaska. Yeah.
to Alaska, like an hour and a half. I went to Dallas. I think I was a junior or senior in high school. I think I was maybe a junior in high school. I went to Dallas for like a school trip. I seriously, I
On
thought
to
maybe I
Mars.
was in another state. That was the longest. That was the longest drive.
She's like, do I need one of them passports to head to Dallas?
Right.
How do I get one of those?
Right. Like, seriously, I'm like, can you, like, how do you, can your car make it that far? Can a car actually drive it?
Baby.
I know. I was so sheltered. My poor husband. God love him. God love him. Bless his heart. Like, I don't, like, I mean, and then I will say too, growing up, obviously, Jim and I grew up very different. On my side of the family, we know on my mom's side of the family, the women are strong and they have some strong opinions and they voice their opinions. And, if they are not scared to leave a relationship, you know, so, on Jim's side of the family, those people, they marry for life, right? They are lifers. And, he grew up, his mom, stayed home and, dinner was on the table, beds were made, laundry was done, things were pressed. They had an iron and an ironing board, like the outside air, they used a dryer. The outside air dried my clothes. Like we had a
Yeah.
clothesline, so, we didn't have a washboard. We actually had a washing machine, but we hung our clothes on the clothesline. But, so we grew up very different. And so for Jim to come in and take on this, special project in me, a lot about him and what he and my family, and the craziness that is that. This is a lot about him, but and his mom stepped in too. And I was in Austin and away from my family. And we moved in with Jim's sister and I didn't really know her. We hadn't even been dating a year when we moved to Austin and I moved in with them. And so I didn't really know her. And I will say Lori has become one of my closest friends. Like I love her. We're super close. I mean, I've known her for 40 some years, but we're super close. But they kind of brought me in and I saw a different way that a family can live together and travel and, order off of menus and,
Dry them clothes.
have your whole family together at Christmas, I just saw like a different kind of way that a family can live together and interact. And I loved it. I became kind of enthralled by that and just like that. And that's what I wanted too for Jim and I and for Kendall. And that's what I want for her. I want her to, find the person. I mean, I found Jim very, very young. We joke that he's my only bowl of cereal and he is my only bowl of cereal. Because I started dating him when I was 17 years old, and I didn't cheat on him. So,
Yeah.
So, I want Kendall to find her person and know, like I knew when I moved to Austin, I wasn't moving to Austin with someone that I didn't think I was going to, spend the rest of my life. I was young and naive and stupid. Like I said, I moved to Austin when I was 18 years old. I was 18 years old and thought that I was ready to, whatever, conquer the world. And I wasn't, but I knew though that he was right for me, and that's, and his family, just like I said, they brought me in and welcomed me and it was great. So I also feel like, although when my mom and I started, when all that stuff started happening, my mother-in-law was still living. She's passed away, but she was still living. And she also filled a huge mother role for me. Huge. I mean, I didn't call her and talk to her and kind of spill my guts to her like I do with my aunt, because there were some things that I didn't want I didn't want my mother-in-law to have to deal with. There were some things that I kind of wanted to protect her from as well. And I wanted to kind of protect my mom a little bit from some of that too. Because there was that weird relationship where my father-in-law was her boss, and so they had that relationship. So I also didn't want,
Well, damage your reputation in any way.
yeah, that's a good way to
Just,
say it. I didn't want that to happen either, but my mother-in-law stepped up too. And, my mother-in-law, obviously she's not a perfect person, but if you could say, what is a mom? What is the ideal mom? Like, especially, 50s, 60s, 70s, what is the ideal mom? Her picture is in the dictionary. She was the ideal mom who, her kids were everything to her. Everything. I don't think she liked me very much at first because I stole her son. It's that whole weird, I don't know who this person. And there's 5 years difference. Trust me, I would have the same questions about Kendall.
Yeah.
But there's 5 years. I'm coming
Yeah.
in 5 years, and I have all this crap going on with my parents getting divorced, and I'm moving
Yeah.
in with them, and I'm sure she's like, "Hey, time out,
Yeah.
time out. We don't know her. You don't really know her.
Put the toddler
She's
back.
young. She's
Yeah.
young. Is this really what she wants?" So I'm sure she had some concerns, but then I won her over, 'cause,
Yeah. Yeah.
but and then
Sure.
she realized we're never getting rid of her, so
You won't leave.
she is going to be here. So, yeah. And I truly know that she loved me as a daughter as well. So I really felt like I had that role model, too, when I was kind of raising Kendall. I still am raising her, but, I had that role model as well. And I'm telling you, Kendall idolized that woman. So she also had my mother-in-law, her mama, as my mother-in-law. We saw them probably a couple times a month, until she started getting sick but we saw them all the time. So Kendall definitely had an actual grandmother in her life for the majority of her life. She passed away 3 years ago. So, Kendall had a grandmother who was very, very, they went to, if there was a cheer competition, they were going to. If there was a football game she was cheering at, they were going to it. If they were involved in everything. So, I also had that wonderful role model as a mom.
Sounds like whenever you were talking about earlier, God provided financially. God also provided what he knew you were going to need. He knew you were going to need a Judy and your mother-in-law, and Kendall was going to need that. And God just so faithful in all those areas. You don't always think about it, but God's like, here, you're going to have a rough patch. You're going to have this rough patch and you're going to need this support, and God can heal this part of it. You still need the Judys and what's your mother-in-law's name? I'm sorry.
Linda.
Miss Linda.
Linda.
You're going to need all those things. And I love that he
I
provided
kind of
that.
think of it as like a bowling alley, where you're just barreling down and there's just these bumpers that just help you get where you need to be. That it's not great, but it's not ideal that you're so but
Right. Well,
you just have those buffers that
it's
step
kind
in.
Guide you.
we all go through those rough patches, and Kendall goes through them too. And what I've told her and what I've kind of tried to adopt for myself is, when you are going through it, you are like, I do not understand why I'm having to deal with this. I do not understand. This does not make sense. I don't know why God would put this challenge in front of me, and I don't think I can do it. And then you get through it, and then you realize that it created this wonderful relationship that I have with my mother-in-law and that I have with my aunt, and it got Missy and I are closer, and it created this great relationship that I have with my daughter. So you go through these things and you do not understand it at the time, but if you continue to have faith and trust, it does kind of all play out in the end. And you may not understand it at the time, and you don't have to, but if you make it through it, when you make it through it, truly will make sense later on. You can look back on it. And I think Missy tells this thing about, 5 days. You give it 5 days. In 5 days, if you still feel the same way, then we can talk about going back. It's like a relationship ends. If you still feel the same way in 5 days, then you can go back and revisit that relationship. And she's like, but I promise you, in 5 days, you're not going to feel the same. You're going to feel different. And so it's that same thing when you're going through something horrible and hard, and, you know, you just have to get through it. You just have to get through it. Kendall has this motto that she uses now, and it's called pain is temporary. She says pain is temporary, whether that's mental pain or physical pain or emotional pain, you know, whatever, it's temporary. Or most pain, it's temporary. And if you can just get through it, you just have to get through it. Then you'll understand why you had to experience that pain. Because there is something on the other side. There is something, and you're going to learn something from it. And it is going to open a door. You just have to have faith that it's going to open a door for something that may not have been open if you hadn't been open to experiencing the pain and getting through the pain. You know,
what I think is from G.I. Jane, pain reminds you that you're not dead yet.
Yeah.
true.
Which is not a bad lesson. Mortensen screaming at you that you're not dead yet.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can take my emotional, heartfelt thing and go with G.I. Jane.
Yes. I'm just saying. Well, there's a lot
You
of
could, or you could remember that God don't waste pain.
Yeah.
He don't waste
Does
hard
not
times.
waste
He
pain.
don't waste pain. He don't waste trials or tribulations, because he's got something
And
he wants us to know and learn.
Yep.
And
He needs to
it's
teach
always
us
about
something.
yeah. And at the end of the
you have to-
day, like, Jesus got it worse than anybody else ever.
it's true.
And yet
Yeah.
we're over here thinking, like, oh, I have to go through this. Like, I'm so special. You know, Jesus went through way worse than I do. My emotional damaged
Yeah.
self. It's always a good thing to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Angie, after all of this, and when you think about your life and you think about Kendall and your future and all that, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want Kendall to remember you as, or your friends, or, you know, your family? What do you want your legacy to be?
I don't know. I don't really think I've thought about it. I think obviously, I think I want people to know that I love them. And you know, I say all this stuff about my mom, but it's really is kind of an unconditional love, you know, and I am not the greatest at communicating with people. Like, I don't do it very well, you know. Seriously, I read a text and I'm like, and then I never respond to it, you know, or I read a text and in my head, I think about, oh, I should say, and then, you know, the next day it's like too late. I'm like, I'm not going to say that anymore. And then it's seriously like 2 weeks later and they're like, what? You never responded. So I'm terrible with communication, but I hope people know that I love them and they are important to me, and that I made them feel, in the time that I was with them, I made them feel important.
You're killing it. Well,
You're
no. So, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing, Angie. You did a fantastic job. I know you told me
Yeah.
yesterday you were super duper worried about it.
I didn't think I was going to have anything to say,
Right.
and I'm not great just speaking. I mean, you couldn't tell it today, but I'm not great at just speaking off the cuff. I do need some prompts to think about what I'm going to say. Like I said, you couldn't tell it today, but you know, it's usually not.
No, I was
Good.
thinking, what do you mean you have trouble talking?
Do.
First of all, you're part Blankenship. What do you
It's
mean
just-
you have trouble talking?
Well,
Yeah,
you get some
yeah, yeah.
wine in me, and then all the other stuff starts coming out. We don't want that conversation. That conversation at your house, total strangers, and I'm like, I'm not. No wine. This is I have water in my cup. Nothing but water. No wine, because the stuff that
That's a
comes out of
different
my mouth with
conversation.
wine is not anything that can be on a podcast.
Nope, it's a different conversation.
It's a whole
Although I
different-
am going to figure out how to record us at the river, because I think we've had some pretty darn good conversations sitting in the middle of that water.
We have.
But anyway, so I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I know this is hard. I know
It's
it's
been fun.
vulnerable, and it's odd that we're asking all of our friends and family to do this.
Like, come talk about your trauma. It'll
Yeah.
be fine.
We'll just put it on all the podcast channels. It's fine. It'll be fine. Nobody's going to listen. It's fine. Nobody will hear. Although we know
We have a
from
couple of
earlier,
listeners.
that's not true. That's not true. There's no backlash whatsoever.
No, relationships are strong. No,
Fine.
Created more generational curses. Yeah.
Let me just say, Angie, it's been so nice meeting you, girl. I've heard a
too.
lot
I've
of
loved
that,
it.
and I'd love to meet you in person. But thank you so much for sharing. For sure.
Absolutely. It's been fun.
Okay, love.
All right, and everybody at home, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of The Mother You Know, The Woman You Don't. Please be sure to check us out on social media while you still can on TikTok and on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. And you can go to themotheryouKnow.com to listen to other episodes, shoot us an email, or wherever you get your podcasts. And with that, we will see you next week.
So bye.